They told me that if I started talking, everyone would sit down. So this is the signal that we're beginning. Good morning and welcome to Hunter's View. Welcome for a great day. I'm Jack Gardner, president of the John Stewart Company. We're the lead developer and manager of the new Hunter's View, formerly a dilapidated public housing complex that, as you can see around you, is rapidly being reborn as a new mixed income and mixed use San Francisco neighborhood with zero displacement of existing residents, one-for-one replacement of public housing units, new affordable tax credit units, new market rate for sale units, small parks like this one, a new mixed income childcare center, all with the generous financial support of the city and county of San Francisco. Thank you, Mayor Lee. And the state's infill infrastructure grant and multifamily housing programs funded by previous state housing bonds like the one that's going to be signed in just a few minutes. So on behalf of my development partners, Divine and Gong and Ridgepoint Nonprofit Housing Corporation, and the residents of Hunter's View, we are thrilled to welcome Governor Brown and a veritable who's who of state and local housing leadership here to Hunter's View this morning. Although I'm a little concerned it might be a Brown Act violation of some kind. Anyway, okay, we're moving on. As you all know, we are here. Is the Attorney General here? Could we check with him? Okay. As you know, we're here to witness and participate in the governor's signing of a historic package of housing financing, streamlining, and incentivizing bills, which carry with them the hopes, dreams, and hard work of thousands of housing advocates, development and policy experts, working people, elected officials, and most importantly, families, veterans, seniors, and homeless people who are struggling in California's superheated housing market. Today we are going to see that the governor's pen is indeed mightier than the sword that would prevent us from taking these concrete steps towards addressing California's housing crisis. So without further ado, and sticking to my 1 minute, I would like to ask our very own local housing champion, Mayor Ed Lee, to welcome you to our fair city.
Well, I have no problem being short. Governor, thank you again for being here. Every member of our Assembly and our Senate, everyone that contributed to this, I want to say that this group of people that are identified today, that are authors, co-authors of 15 pieces of legislation that the governor will sign off, including the governor, are part of the solution to our housing crisis. And I just want to say that a few weeks ago, led by Mayor Garcetti and the other mayors, we went up to Sacramento. It's a fun place to be at when we're solving problems. A fun place to be at. And not only resources, I know that the governor's been in my ear for a long time saying it can't just be about the money. So that's why yesterday I signed an executive directive that will cut the entitlements for housing and affordable housing, the time in half in San Francisco. And I challenge everybody else to do the same thing. That's how we'll complement the wonderful work that all of our legislators did with the governor so we can honor the money and the investments that are being put forth. Welcome to San Francisco. Welcome to the Bay Area. Let's get to solutions. Let's hand out keys to the people who want those units. Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody.
And it wouldn't be complete without our sister city across the bay, Mayor Libby Schaaf from the City of Oakland.
Good morning. Welcome to the Bay Area, ground zero of California's affordability crisis. We see it every day here in the Bay Area as we are stuck in traffic next to super commuters who spend 2 hours driving from a home they can afford to a job that allows them to afford it, driving over growing tent encampments. We have done a lot this year, and I hope that you know as state representatives that we at the local level have been taking local action to also complement the incredible leadership that you have shown at the state. And my parting words to you is that we are not done with this work. When you come back to Sacramento for your next legislative season, please do not say that last season was the season of housing and this year we will move on to something else. We have more work to do. Thank you.
We're on a tour of statewide mayors. Let's move a little further south. Mayor of Los Angeles, Eric Garcetti. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Good morning, everybody. Muy buenos días. It is a great pleasure. I hear we have 1 minute each, but if we cross Bakersfield this morning, we get 2. So it is such a joy to be with everybody here. First of all, thank you, Governor. Thank you for making this a priority and for signing this legislation. Secondly, to the great legislative team that is here, who has been 3 years ago, we were in Chinatown in Los Angeles, pushing forward the first package of this, I remember, with Assemblymember Chu and then Speaker Atkins. Thank you to our Senate and our Senate leader, Kevin De Leon. Thank you to our Assembly and our Speaker. And thank you for everybody, including our State Treasurer, who has made this a priority for all of us. Look, we saw it on the way here, and it could have been Los Angeles. You get off the freeway and you see the encampments. You drive by the streets and you see the trailers. And I dare say, if you went into the homes and talk to people about their monthly mortgage or their monthly rent payments, the California dream is in danger. But this session, on top of cap and trade, on top of transportation and traffic mitigation, you stepped up and did something that is a brave step for this entire state. But as Libby said, we got a long list. Next session, let's look at what we can do to bring tax increment financing back. Let's look at what we can do for renter protections and empowering local governments to protect with rent stabilization. And let's look at CEQA abuse reform to make sure that projects get done quickly. We are doing that at the local level. I'm so proud to stand with my brother and sister mayors to do this and represent all Californians. But we want to be grateful today for what you are doing and what you have launched forward. Y brevemente también en español yo quiero decir la crisis de la vivienda es la crisis más grande en el estado de California. Pero hoy, con estos héroes, tenemos la oportunidad de traer los recursos, la acción que la población de California dependen. Y es necesario a continuar estos actos, esta legislación en el próximo año también. Pero tengo mucho orgullo como un californio hoy con esta legislatura y especialmente el gobernador Brown. Gracias por su liderazgo, gracias por su acción. Thank you so much, everybody. Oh, and we'll see you in 2028 at the Olympics. We're going to do some sailing stuff out here.
Okay, he got 2 minutes, but it's because he translated it for himself. Nobody else, though, okay? All right. Great. Well, let's move into the legislature, and I'm very pleased to welcome Senator Tony Atkins from San Diego to the stage.
Our hero, yeah!
Well done. Thank you. Well, good morning, everybody. I am here with an incredibly grateful heart, a very grateful heart. I want to say thank you to my colleagues in the Senate and the Assembly for sticking together on a very substantive package of bills to address our housing crisis. This is a necessary and critical first start to a severe problem. My legislation, SB 2, the Building Homes and Jobs Act, will provide an ongoing annual infusion of money. It is also about money. Roughly $250 million every year that communities all over California need to build affordable housing to help bring people off the streets into safe homes with supportive services. The first year, half of this money will go to homelessness. Thank you for that, Governor. To the many, many advocates who have been pushing relentlessly for years for housing legislation, Housing California, the Consortium, Western Center on Poverty and Law, on and on and on, I want to say thank you. I need to acknowledge the leadership. Yeah, you can clap. I'm talking fast because we got a minute. And they say people from the South can't speak fast. To the Pro Tem, thank you for your embracing of this legislation from the day I got there. SB 2 started out in the Senate, spent a few years in the Assembly, and then came home to the Senate. Thank you for helping us get this done. To our Speaker, I want to say thank you, Anthony Rendon, for really putting the push on in the end and working with the colleagues in the other House to get this done. And to our very iconic Governor, Jerry Brown, who really rolled up his sleeves and said, we need to get this done. It took everyone to make this happen. So today, with the signing of this package, we will be helping thousands upon thousands of Californians who don't even have the luxury to know that we are here today signing legislation that will help get them into homes and services. I can't think of a better way to show public service. Thank you all.
Okay, SB2, I never thought I'd see it today, but come on, let's hear from the housing advocates. Yeah! Yeah! Okay, sorry, I got a little excited. Well, let's stay in the Southland, maybe not quite as far south, but let's bring Assemblymember Richard Bloom to the stage. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. What a great day. I want to thank Governor Brown, as everyone else has, and his staff for their hard work and engagement on this issue. But I also want to thank the collective leadership of my colleagues, Speaker Anthony Rendon, who said, we did cap and trade, we did transportation, now let's do housing, and we did it. I want to thank the statewide advocacy community for their help in shepherding these bills through the legislature. But folks, today, millions of Californians, young and old, middle income and poor, are faced with the unbearable cost of housing, leaving less for other necessities and diminishing their quality of life. Many are forced to make stressful financial decisions just to keep an eviction notice off of their front door, and some become homeless, living a life of despair that we increasingly see on the streets of so many California cities. Today, we are here to tell those who are suffering that we hear you, and we are committed to making housing affordable again so that our teachers, grocery clerks, car mechanics, retired seniors, those who make up the fabric of our communities can again afford to live in our communities. AB 1505 returns to local government the ability to require affordable rental units in all new market rate housing developments. To the extent that cities, and I know they will be adopting these ordinances known as inclusionary policies. This is an important and successful tool for creating and protecting housing for our lower wage earners, seniors, and the disabled. AB 1521 helps preserve thousands of homes where an affordable development is nearing the end of its affordable deed restriction. You folks out there who do this know what I'm talking about. By requiring that sellers of those properties accept a market rate purchase offer if the new owner agrees to maintain the property's affordability. And we know those buyers are out there, so we're going to be able to preserve that affordable housing. All of the bills in this package are meaningful and help, but as you've heard from two speakers already, don't fully solve the crisis, and we know we have much more work to do, and we will keep working this issue for as long as we need to. But today's effort puts us on the right path so people can have both a roof over their heads and a place where they can happily and affordably call home. Thank you.
Well, we're going to stay in the South, but come back a little closer to home. We'd like Senator Jim Bell to come up. Thank you.
I'll move this up. I wanted to thank all the housing advocates and the staffers that work so hard. Let's give the staff and all the advocates a big hand. I really appreciate all your hard work. The Senate staff, the Assembly staff, Governor's staff, everybody that worked so hard on this, pulling these legislative package together. As Senator Atkins said, it's so important. It was a lot of hard work, and they did all the hard work. We just got the glory, but they're the power behind the glory, right? So I think for me personally, the spark that caused the fire that burned my house down when I was 14 and left the family of 12 homeless, had the tragedy. Out of that tragedy came my resolve to have my life dedicated to public service and to also dedicate my life to providing housing for all people without making judgments on why they were in the situation that they were in, and looking at people as real people that needed housing as a right in our community. And that's why I was so forceful in supporting and authoring SB 3, the $4 billion housing bond that will provide approximately 92,000 housing units with all the investments. So we want to get those programs going as soon as possible, so we're going to have a campaign to get SB 3 adopted by the voters next year. So the campaign starts now to get SB 3 adopted by the voters. So we are all going to have to collectively have our resolve, like I had as a young person in changing my life due to the fire that destroyed our family home, and understanding what real tragedy in the area of housing and homelessness is all about, and keeping that in my mind till this day as a legislator and a leader in my community. So thank you very much, and thank you all for supporting all the hard work that we did. Let's celebrate. Thank you.
Well, let me reassure you, sir, that the Housing Advocacy Committee is ready to take that challenge, raise the money, pass the word, spread the word, and get SB 3 passed in November of 2018. Next, from our very own Bay Area, we're back up here. Assemblymember Timothy Grayson, please.
What an honor it is to be here today, and I want to first start by thanking the governor, Governor Brown, as well as legislative leadership, Speaker Anthony Rendon, Senate Pro Tem Kevin De Leon, for your great efforts. And then along with my colleagues, both on the Assembly and Senate side, for your tireless work to be able to get this package not just in rhetoric, but in written and past the threshold to where today it takes upon itself a life of action. AB 879, as a matter of fact, it's been said by almost every speaker, this is the beginning. This is the first step. There's a lot of work to be done. AB 879 addresses that in the sense that it'll help us find the whole story. It'll help us find a better understanding about how we got in this crisis and better detail how we're going to be able to get out of it. So while we're taking action today and signing bills and implementing programs to try to take care of some immediate needs, we also need to have the vision to be looking forward, to be able to fully come up with a comprehensive plan to deal with the housing that we will continually have as a need in our lives as Californians. Thank you to all my colleagues. Thank you to leadership, and have a great day. This is a great day in California.
It gives me particular pleasure to introduce my own personal state senator from Berkeley, Senator Nancy Skinner. Go Bears. Okay.
Thank you. We all know homelessness, displacement, continually rising housing costs hurts California. What's one of the key culprits? The housing shortage. The bills that are being delivered and signed today bring needed funding, some streamlining, get rid of some legal obstacles, and deal with some of the NIMBY obstacles that are keeping housing from being built to address that shortage. So I'm very, very pleased that two of my bills, SB 166 and SB 167, are in this package today. And I want to thank our Pro Tem, Senator De Leon, our Speaker, Anthony Rendon, our Governor, for getting behind all of these bills. Because while each of us as authors had to really work to get them across the finish line, we couldn't have done it without the unity and the support of everyone here. So thank you, and the advocates, and of course our staff. So my bills, SB 166 and 167, basically deal with the fact that getting a permit to build housing should not be a shell game. It should happen if you meet the rules. If you have proposed something that fits the existing zoning and planning requirements, your housing should get built. And that's what those two do. Tackle those NIMBY obstacles that so often prevent housing from being built. So I'm proud to have them signed today, and thank you all.
Next up, moving back to the South Bay, Assembly Member Evan Lowe, please. Evan.
Hello, my name is Evan Lowe from the Silicon Valley, and this is an issue facing not only all generations, but also the millennial generation. And as a millennial, as a former mayor and a state legislator, I cannot afford a single family home in the community that I work and represent. And this is an issue that faces multi-generations of people. And it's important that we recognize the work of all of those who have been here. And I thank our mayors for continually to be our friendly agitators and ensure that you are advocating for the best interests of our communities. And I will say that many of us came from local government, and so we recall our local government hats. I also want to thank our Senate Pro Tem and also Chair of Housing, David Chu, and our governor for all of the work, and our speaker in this endeavor. I have a deep appreciation for large packages, and this is a significant package. And we want to continue to ensure that we are advocating for the interests of all people. So thank you very much. We want to ensure that we have a community in which the state has, where everyone can call a home and have the keys to their places. Thank you very much.
Well, we hated to lose him from our board, but he learned his chops locally and then took him to Sacramento and got it done. Senator Scott Wiener.
Let's hear it for housing. So today, California begins a pivot from California's housing last policy to our future housing first policy, where housing matters. We have spent 50 years in this state digging ourselves into a deep hole by making it harder and harder to build housing, by coming up with every conceivable excuse in the book why we don't need housing, by putting obstacle after obstacle in the way of new housing. And we are paying the price today. When families have to move or even leave the state because they just can't afford to live here, where people are pushed out onto the streets, where our economy is being harmed because employers don't want to expand if their workers aren't going to be able to find housing anywhere nearby, where we're undermining our own climate goals by pushing people into crushingly long commutes. And so today we begin the process of turning that around. I want to thank Governor Brown. Thank you for not only for signing for my bill, SB 35, which will streamline the housing approval process in communities that are not meeting their housing goals. But Governor, you played a critical role in moving the concept of streamlining forward last year, and I want to thank you for your collaboration. I want to thank our fearless leader, Senator De Leon, the President of the Senate, who really gave me the space to move this bill forward and helped us save it several times. And Senator De Leon, I just want to thank you for your friendship and your leadership. I also just want to stress what others have said, that this is the beginning, not the end. And we cannot move past today and just check the box and say we've done housing, we're moving on to something else. When you spend 50 years driving your car into a ditch, that means it's a really deep ditch, and you're not going to pull that car out overnight. And so we need to keep going, and we need to have the consistency and the focus and the fortitude and the political will to make it happen and to spend years and years fixing this problem. I am happy to hear some of my colleagues talk about how this is the beginning, not the end, because I have some bills for you next year, and I look forward to that. Thank you, everyone.
All right, never say die. Excellent. We're going to pivot a little bit from the electeds, if you will, and hear from a couple stakeholders. First up, we'd like to talk to somebody representing the people who are going to turn the dirt, hammer the nails, do the plumbing, and get this housing built. Robbie Hunter of the State Building and Construction Trades. There it is.
You know, we represent blue-collar workers, over 500,000 families. And, you know, the thing about these bills, and the reason we got behind them to support them, it's not only helping the people at the bottom that need affordable housing, but it's the blue-collar middle class that cannot afford to buy a home. This will absolutely help, and it'll drive jobs, it will drive the economy, it'll give working people the ability to buy a home, and that's what California is all about. This governor, I don't know that we'll see the likes of him again. He is about solving problems. A pro tem, Kevin DeLeon, a leader, the speaker, let's get this done. All the legislators that are here today, they address the hard issues. They move legislation that are going to make this a better state to live in. Nowhere else in this nation do we see it. We thank you all.
Thank you, Robbie. Next up, from the advocacy community, Lisa Hershey, Executive Director of Housing California. Lisa.
This is a historic moment. The legislature and Governor Brown have taken amazing action. That includes long-needed funding to build affordable homes, assistance to end homelessness, and policies to keep our people in our communities. This moment brings to mind one of our residents and her story. Her name is Maria Hernandez. She lives in a rental home made possible by city and county investments, built with public and private funds in Poway, San Diego. She is a member of our Residents United Network, a coalition of residents who advocate for affordable homes, along with the builders who are our partners in this work, to advocate for state investments in all Californians. Because Maria's city and county committed to investing in the creation of this affordable home, Maria can afford her rent. Because of this stabilization in her life, Maria is able to complete her degree in political science and raise her daughter. Because housing made a difference for her family and her neighbors, Maria met with her representative, Republican Assembly Member Brian Mainshine, on several occasions, and helped convince him and many others that the state needs to take action. And he said yes. Because of this and her work with Run, Maria plans to run for city council in Poway in 4 years. Lives like Maria's are why today's action is so important. This step by California represents our values. It reflects progress. We are all ready for progress. The progress of the legislature and the governor are making right now. The progress that could come with our 2018 statewide affordable bond campaign. And the progress that our we can clap for that, that is awesome. And the progress that our communities will continue to fight for. We are grateful for all of the lawmakers here today, and I'm not going to mention names. There are so many of you here that have just been phenomenal. All of our advocacy partners, and I'm not going to mention names because I don't want to leave all of you out. All of our communities, our local government, and everyone else is here. We are thankful to you. We look forward to building on this momentum with our state leaders, our community partners, and most importantly, our residents, who made the real difference in getting the legislature to hear them and to take action to address the top facing issues for California now. Thank you so much.
See, for a housing advocate, that was 1 minute. That's kind of how we measure time. It really, well done, well done. Let's pivot again, and let's move to leadership. And we've got a twofer. On behalf of Assembly Speaker Anthony Rendon, who couldn't be with us this morning, I'm very pleased to invite up to the stage our very own Chair of the Assembly Housing and Community Development Committee, David Hsu.
Good morning. Do we have any housers in the house today? Are we ready to build? Are we going to get this done? Thank you so much for being part of a day that I have to say I never thought was going to happen. 3 years ago, when I was first elected to the Assembly, I went and I asked, when are we going to deal with our housing crisis? And with the exception of the folks who are here, I got a lot of blank stares. But a lot has changed over the last 3 years. This year, our Assembly Housing Committee, we did hearings around the state. And we heard from farm workers in the Coachella Valley who are suffering, from homeless veterans on LA's Skid Row who are suffering. We heard from Cal State University students, 1 out of 10, who are living on their friends' couches or sleeping in their cars. We heard from SRO residents here in San Francisco, from Chinatown, the Tenderloin, the Mission, and here in the Bayview. And so I want to thank all of you, all of us, for answering the call. To our legislators, early this year, when in both the Senate and the Assembly Democratic caucuses, our leader, Kevin DeLeon, our speaker, we asked our caucuses, are we going to prioritize housing at the very top? And we did that. I want to thank all of our housers who are here for your toiling over the many years and all the work that you've done to get this moment to fruition. And Mr. Governor, I need to thank you. I have to admit, we all kind of wondered what was going to happen during this year. But you stepped up, you led, you showed up, literally, unexpectedly, in my office when I was meeting with our housing caucus in the Assembly to tell us we're going to get this done. That is leadership. Now, as it's been said, it's taken us decades to get into this housing crisis. It's going to take us years to build our way out. But let me just share one last thing. My toddler is here. He's here at his first bill signing, Mr. Governor. And he's here in a context when half of our millennials are considering leaving California because of our housing costs. And I want to thank all of you for making it possible so that when my son is an adult, he has a chance of living in the best cities in the world, in the greatest state in the world, here in California. Thank you for bringing California home.
I'm getting my steps in today. This is great. Well, from the Assembly to the Senate, with great pleasure, we're in the home stretch here. We're going to bring up our very own Senate President Pro Tempore, Kevin DeLeon. President?
Well, good morning to each and every one of you. How are we feeling today? Let me tell you that Senator Scott Wiener, as well as our Assembly member of San Francisco, this part of town, David Hsu, is going to have an old school house party right afterwards to celebrate here in the city this indeed historic day. Now, I can't say enough about the amazing legislators we have here present today, from both the Senate as well as the Assembly, working together as a team, hand in glove, in a manner that was focused and dedicated to the people of the great state of California. We have our local mayors here from the great cities of Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Oaktown, right across the bay. All of us working in concert with each other and with the great Governor Jerry Brown. Now, it was already said a few moments ago, but if we're going to continue to move this economy and make sure it's inclusive of all individuals, because here in California, we respect diversity. If we're going to include everybody and grow this economy, we've got to make sure that we have housing as a top priority. And for the year 2017, we had housing as a top priority, yes indeed. And because of the advocates here today, and a very special thank you to my good friend, Robbie Hunter, the building trades. Let's get it for Robbie. We are doing something that is quite historic. Senator Tony Atkins from San Diego, thank you for your dedication and leadership. Senator Jim Bell, the lone wolf, el lobo solitario, from San Jose. Senator Nancy Skinner. And to a man who never left my office because he squatted in my office every single day, Senator Scott Wiener. Senate Bill 35. To all the great Assembly members here, to all the great staff on both sides, the Assembly and the Senate, as well as the Governor's office. And I got to give a special thank you to my colleague, my counterpart for the Assembly, the Speaker, Anthony Rendon, couldn't be here today, but we worked close with each other. And I got to give it up to the leader of the Assembly when it comes to housing, his vision, David Chu. David Chu, thank you very much. Together, we did something that a lot of folks did not think we'd do, and by any objective measure, what was accomplished in this legislative year 2017 is quite historic. And I will put this year up against any other legislative year with any other leader from the Senate as well as Assembly. And together, the Assembly and the Senate and the Governor and all of our staffs together put something that I think will relieve this housing crisis for a lot of Californians, giving them a real opportunity to succeed, give them a real opportunity to achieve the California dream. So let's give it up for everybody here today. Thank you. Now, let's give it up for a man who needs no introduction, a man who actually doesn't want an introduction, a man who just wants to get up here and do his thing, but without his leadership and that of his staff, this wouldn't come together. Let's get it for our great governor of the great state of California. Let's get it for Jerry Edmund Brown. All right.
Thank you. You were very efficient. Thank you. What a turnout here. This is probably the biggest bill signing that I've ever seen. And because it's dealing with something so basic as shelter and how we live in our homes and apartments throughout the state. It is a big challenge. We have risen to it this year, and I want to thank, in that regard, not only all you electeds, or us electeds, but there was a lot of complicated staff work in this that ought to go acknowledged, because we talk a lot, but to really get stuff done in the level of detail facing the complexity that is entailed, that is a lot of staff. So all the staffs, legislative and gubernatorial, will you stand up, please, so we can see where you are? Yeah, go ahead. Let's see. There they are. Yes. Good. All right. Thank you. I was trying to think. I can't add anything because it's all been said, but I just can't help but add this one note. They talk about digging a ditch. No, it's not a ditch. No, not a ditch. Look, all these rules were passed by people like you. Let's face it, city and state people did all this good stuff. Energy efficiency, better insulation, more of this and more of that, and you name it. It's all good. But as I always say, too many goods create a bad. So now you're trying to clean up some of the bad, but it is a lot of good too. So that's the paradox. We want to achieve safety and the aesthetics and the right kind of neighborhoods and all the rest of that stuff, and we get a lot of rules. So now we got to figure out a way to streamline, and we're doing that in these bills, a way to fund, because this capitalistic system, I mean, it is powerful, but it's so powerful you can't control it. And when people make a lot of money because they have all these apps, they start spending it and bidding up the price of housing. And there we are. So I know none of you want to cut the value of people's homes they struggle to buy. So we're not talking about lowering the prices in one sense, although we are. So there it is. Plenty of paradox, plenty of complexity, but today you can be sure we got 15 good bills. Yes, they're good. They move the ball forward. Have they ended the need for further legislation? Unfortunately not, because not so many bills next year, guys. Okay, thank you very much. Let's sign the bills.